I've always wanted to get back into content creation on YouTube, especially for cubing, but I've never really found the time and motivation to dedicate towards making videos. The last time I really made cubing content was on my old main channel in late 2019 to early 2020, which is almost 5 years ago now. I was in middle school at the time, and now, in 6 months, I'll be graduating from high school, which is crazy to think about. Since I started getting into clock, I wanted to customize mine, and before I started making my own inserts, it got me thinking. Maybe I can use this opportunity to make cubing content again. So in this video, I'll be showing you most of the process towards making my custom clock inserts, as well as a mini tutorial on how you can make yours look similar to mine. So here's the final result of the clock inserts I'll be making. And they actually came out pretty well, especially considering some of the imperfections that happened during the process. Turning still turns the same as it was before, and the pins still move pretty effortlessly. So the reason why I wanted to make custom clock inserts is because I recently started to grind this event after learning 7 Simul, and I also really like the idea of customizing my clock and making it stand out from everyone's. Because I'm going to be customizing my blue JE clock, I also wanted to make the clock inserts blue themed as well because I thought it would look cleaner. Like the weeb I am, I narrowed it down to 2 choices for my inserts, Crony from Hololive and a Japanese singer Ado. In order to make these inserts, I followed a tutorial made by my cubing friend Ethan, or Kobashi on YouTube, who's top 100 in average for clock and gas me in almost every other event. Like bro. Even though the template he made is on Pixlr, I went on and made a Photoshop version because I'm more familiar with it and I also wanted to make some more tweaks and edits to it as well. Since the process of making the inserts is a little different than the one on its tutorial, I decided to make a little tutorial in case people would prefer to use the Photoshop version instead. So yeah. So I decided to make a Photoshop version of the template because I'm more familiar with it, and I made some few modifications too, so yeah. And if you don't have Photoshop, you can use photopea, which is pretty much a free browser version of Photoshop. So one of the differences between this one and Ethan's is that if you zoom in closer, like the actual clock insert is not touching the edge, and that's going to be important later on. So before we do anything, we're going to click on the template right here, on layers, right click, then click on ungroup layers, so it's a little bit easier to work with. Import in any image. I'm gonna use Sutao for this example, and move the image layer between the 12 indicators and the clock insert. Right click the image you selected and click a rasterize layer, and then right after click on this crop tool. Yeah. Click on that. So right after you got this set up, gonna hold control and click on this layer right here. As you can see, it selects everything. And then you click on your image and do Control X, and that cuts out everything. And then we're gonna disable the empty space and the clock insert. So the problem here is that, especially for white areas, when you put it on the document, you have like no clear cutout indicators of where to cut around, and we don't want that. So we're gonna click on our image right here, right click, and go to blending options, and then you're gonna enable stroke. Make sure the position is outside and 5 pixels. Now you can see we have these indicators of where to cut out, which I think helps a lot. You can also customize the 12 indicators and the time indicators. One thing I found that really helped is that I'm gonna click on the time indicators, go to blending options again. So if you want to change the color, you would just click on color overlay and just choose whatever color you want. I'm just gonna leave it on white for now. And then enable stroke. And as you can see, these time indicators pop out real nice. So yeah, I think that helps a lot. Once you're done, you're just gonna export it as a PNG. Just name it whatever you want. And yeah, so I'm gonna show you why using the crop tool is important when making your clock inserts, because I realized I used a completely square image. So for example, let's say we're using this image. As you can see, we had to like zoom it in just to get it like centered and stuff. And if we don't use a cropping tool, like we just cut it out and add the stroke, it looks fine. But if you zoom in closer, you can see the stroke is being added to the outside borders as well. If we disable it, enable, yeah, and we don't want that at all. However, if you do use the cropping tool right here, make sure it's on square and click on it. Click on the check mark. As you can see now it's cropped to a square if you move this, it's cropped to a square now. So now we can cut it out and there won't be any problems. Enable stroke. And as you can see, there's no stroke or being added to this. So after you got your clock inserts made, we're gonna make a new Google Slide document and delete these. So after you've done that, we're gonna go on File, Page Setup, click on Custom, and put it to the size of your paper. In almost everyone's case, it should be 8.5 times 11. And that sets it up. And then we're gonna insert our image. Once you have your clock insert added, we're gonna click on Format Options up here, Size and Rotation, and we're gonna put it on 3.98 inches for both width and height. Then you can fit up to 4 clock inserts in this type of paper. So you can put as many different ones as you want, or 4 of the same in case you mess up. Yeah, once you're done, you can just print it out. Although if you want a full tutorial, I would just recommend watching Ethan's tutorial since it's more in depth and has more detail. So yeah. So these are the clock inserts that I made. So I decided to just make inserts for both characters because making these inserts were actually pretty fun. And because why not? So I'm going to be cutting out the Crony clock inserts first because it's funny putting the time warning in the clock. And I'm just going to print these out at once for now and just store them away for later. And yeah, I'm going to print these out. This is the longest and most boring part about making these clock inserts, but it's also the most important because this is what matters the most. In terms of time, I would say it took like an hour and a half just to cut out both inserts, which sounds like a long time, but you don't want to rush. You really don't want to rush this because if you do, that can happen. So it's better to just spend your time because the end result would be worth it. There's not too much else to say about the cutting process, but as long as you take your time and don't make any major like screw ups, then you should be fine because it doesn't have to be perfect as long as it looks nice. Yeah, that's all I had to say about the cutting process. So there are a bit of imperfections, especially right here, but overall it looks pretty nice. Okay, it's already the next morning, Christmas Eve, and I did the other cutout as well. Still some imperfections, but overall looks pretty nice. I already removed the tape here, so I'm just gonna do this really quickly. So I'm kind of in a rush. That looks pretty nice actually. Alright, here it is. Pins still open, and they're turning it pretty much the same, so that's a good sign. Oh shoot. Little awkward, but I think it's fine. Overall, I'm actually really satisfied with the result of these clock inserts because I thought I would somehow mess it up real bad, but I didn't, so I guess that worked out. Getting used to these inserts actually happened faster than I thought, since I thought it would take like 50 or so solves just to get used to it, but within like the 10th solve I was already back to my normal speed. One concern that I did have after making these inserts is that when I would be looking at the clock during inspection and solving, is that I would always notice the tiny little screw-ups that I made during the cutting process, but I realized that doesn't even matter because I wouldn't even be looking there anyway. Again, I'm really satisfied with how it came out, and this video is probably also my biggest project to date because of how long it took to edit this and how long I procrastinated just to make this. So yeah, Happy New Year. I do plan on making more videos like this in the future, so if you want to be on the lookout for that, I'd really appreciate it if you considered subscribing. So yeah, if you stuck around for this long, thank you for watching and happy holidays. Peace. Yes! No! No! Oh my god, that would have been it. That would have been it.